When the future looks kinda shaky, when nobody knows what's going to happen next, or when the entire world order is changing, the ultra-wealthy don't rush into crypto or real estate, they buy government debt. For example, during World War II, when Europe was on fire and nobody knew how the continent would come out the other side, Swiss government bonds became one of the safest places in the world to park your money. Switzerland stayed neutral. Germany didn't invade it, and its bonds became a kind of financial bunker at a time when investors were looking for safety more than they were looking for crazy returns. And that's the whole point of government bonds. When you buy a bond, you're basically loaning money to a government, and in return, they pay you a fixed amount of interest for a while, and then at the end, they give you your money back. Bonds are not exciting, okay? They're not sexy, but they're stable, and they rarely go to zero because they're backed by entire nations, which don't collapse from one day to the next, at least most of the time. The ultra-wealthy use bonds for their safety. Generally, people consider US bonds to be the safest because they're backed by the world's largest economy. But German bonds, Japanese bonds, or those Swiss bonds we mentioned earlier are also considered safe bets. These countries will probably pay you back. But here's the cool thing about bonds. When stocks go down, they often hold steady or even rise in value, so generally you can keep them in your asset portfolio, giving you reliable income, and if the rest of your assets tank all of a sudden, they'll offset some of the losses and give you some breathing room. So bonds are not the kind of investments that change your life or anything, but they'll at least keep your net worth from falling off a cliff when everything else turns to chaos. Alright, so moving on, this is where things start to get pretty interesting. The sixth store of value is fine art and collectibles. Sometimes it's kind of tough to wrap your mind around why someone would pay millions of dollars for a painting, as pretty as it may be. But take someone like Steve Cohen. He's one of the most successful hedge fund managers in the world, and he's got like $1 billion poured into his art collection so far. We're talking a multi-million-dollar Picassos, Warhols, and Basquiats hanging literally in his living room. But why? Well, showing off the art is probably part of the equation, right? But more importantly, he knows that there's only one of these paintings that he owns,